Now the second poet is Philip de Pinto. Again, I urge you to take your bio home. Philip was born in Sicily, at least in Italy. He lives in New Jersey now, and I only discovered him recently at the Riverside Poets. I haven't heard him read too often except there, and I think he might have performed here once or twice, and I'm going to urge him to read in other venues throughout New York City. Let's hear a warm welcome for Philip de Pinto, artist and poet.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
No, a little closer.
Okay.
Yeah. As much as she'd like to scratch out your eyes, she's an incessant nail biter. A dollhouse divided against itself cannot stand. So Barbie and Ken, before it all comes tumbling down, won't you kiss and make up? Delilah. The seamstress is still someone to dread. First the strong man, now the sewing needle, whose eye she puts out with a thread. Love. Why love, so long ached for and anticipated, once acknowledged and embraced, should be spent as quickly as it takes a tear to travel the length of an eyelash. They, we, and him. There they were, making something out of nothing. And there we were, making nothing out of something. And there he was, trumping us all, not making anything out of anything, but rather leaving things to remain as they are. Two women. A young woman in a red skirt sitting at a bus stop reaches into her purse for the little folding mirror in which she will rearrange her face before the bus arrives to take her to the love of her life, who will not recognize her when she steps off, who is left forever to wonder where the true love of his life got off, or if she is still waiting for the bus. An elderly woman in a pale skirt, sitting at the same bus stop, reaches into her purse for the little folding mirror in which she will rearrange her features so as to make her appear younger than her years. But not so young she will be asked to pay full fare. What remains of what once fit snugly like a wind in your face, of the mortar which once held stones in place, stones which were part of a wall to which one does not wail or confess, stacked high along a country road that bode not well for neighborliness, stones piled miles from debate to demarcate work from play, them from us. War. The talk of the town is of prohibiting illegals from entering our borders. And yet, what pompous edict would prohibit and what wall built of kryptonite deters Superman, the creme de la creme of illegals? What would Perry, Jimmy, Lois, the Daily Planet, Metropolis, and most of all Lex Luthor do without their illegal alien? If my life on this hill is seeming to be deathly still, can it be other than that race of blustery wind is fatigued, or is now in league with things put out to pasture? Unless the wind no longer has reason for being, seeing there is nothing left of me above ground to push around, and no grass on the breast of my final rest, only baldness to comb in and out of place. All my friends are dead. Still, they all live in my head. With all of them dead, in whose head will I live when I am dead? I stopped a stranger along my path and asked him if he would be so kind as to be my friend, so I could live in his head when I am dead. No problem, he said, as long as you can stand to live with all the enemies that still live in mine, who are all dead. You see, he said, all this while that I've been alive, I've never been able to make any friends. You will be the first. I'm tossing pebbles into a lake. Wish you were here tossing them with me. Pebbles which you toss so well and so far. One could easily forget you were a girl. And girl, wishing you were here watching me hurl what I could never as far as you or as well. But I'm getting better. Were you here, you'd see. I'm much improved. Although I know in my heart of hearts I could never toss them as far or as well as you. Still, one day, I hope to see you hurling the way you used to, and frenzy the lake with rings that would envy Saturn. And did I tell you how I'd get such a kick out of watching you down 2 flying fish with 1 toss? Girl, I am at a loss to show pebbles who's boss like you could. If only you'd put your roaming on hold, if only to teach me how you did it, gained such prowess over things, even though your modesty would prevail, and you'd say it was pure luck. But I know different, as do the fish and the pebbles, as does the lake, in which I am affecting rings all by my lonesome. Wishing you were here affecting them with me. Would that you would venture up, would that I could leap into the lake and grab 1 wee ringlet to lasso your finger with. When I was young and would-be star, I bought a cheap guitar. The aim was to play it well, but more than that, to make it sound more expensive than it was. Needless to tell, I practiced quite a spell, well into my decrepit old age. I must admit in retrospect, now that I'm laying on my deathbed, I failed in either aspect, and that I never learned to play it well. In fact, the guitar sounds cheaper now than when I first purchased it. Still, death will not quell the desire in me to play it well, perhaps in some other afterlife. Moreover, when I expire, the guitar will be interred with me forever, as far as I can tell, unless we are both tossed and consumed in a hellfire. Unless eternity has more, unless eternity has other plan, and in that timeless heavenly span have time sufficient to learn to play it, well enough to have me join its choir, although it may always sound inexpensive. After much ado about everything, you were reduced to a snapshot, which I keep in my wallet, which once loomed over me as big as the Sistine. And something stirs in me to browse in my wallet and look at that snapshot of you, at your most photogenic, which I took by the flash of the moon. Alas, between us, there will be no more hits and misses, no more wins or losses, but only a photo finish. And what is one to do when the vast mural of you is hewn down to a 2x3? But remove it from its sleeve when feelings run deep and smother it with kisses. the whittler. He is young. He whittles his song like he would a stick, and it is sound enough that his mother can trust to walk on what he's whittled, far and away from her crippling old man. Or a young man could be inclined to use such a stick as he's whittled from a song to do magic tricks with, like make his crippling old man disappear, vanish into thick air, by simply waving it, or better still, snap it over the old man's back and cripple him in return. One good turn deserving another, isn't that right, mother? Or a young man could simply stifle the urge to sing altogether and let things simply take their natural course. Divorce in those halcyon days of yore not being par for the course. You're swearing before God, or was it Mammon, for better or worse? Isn't that what you swore, mother, upon the altar, for better or worse? And does worse get any better than this? Till death us do part, or till common sense us do wake, or until such time a young man can whittle his opus into a stake for both their sake, to drive through their old man's heart and be swept far and away in the flood of his cold blood. Hurricane. The hurricane had not malice in its heart. No, not this time around. But blew into town, more specifically into the optometrist's office, for its yearly eye exam. After careful examination, the optometrist is happy to announce to the hurricane that its vision was still a perfect 20. Mother's kitchen. We're sitting in our mother's kitchen, watching TV, and seeing a blonde Errol Flynn die with his boots on. When suddenly my brother turns around, puts his knife and fork down, and says to me, "You know, brother, they don't seem to shoot westerns anymore." To which I replied, "Why would they do that, brother? Hasn't Hollywood already killed off way too many Indians, and in their moccasins? And in the event they do decide, for the sake of the almighty dollar, to shoot another western, the few remaining Indians they spared in its golden age, Hollywood will have to hunt down and murder in their casinos." Lonely man in a crowd, picking the pockets and purses of men and women in a crowd, who were just as lonely as he, but suddenly poorer. And the moral is that if you are going to be lonely in a crowd, you may as well get rich while you're at it. What waking up means. What waking up means is that I didn't suffer enough the day before. And that I need to wake up to a new day, if only to add more suffering to my resume. For that is why I was put on this earth, didn't you know? Oh, but I did know. I knew it from the get-go. Way back when Smiling Jack, with the albatross festooned around his neck, which he called the stethoscope, delivered me into this world, who, surmising I was wanting for breath, whacked me on the rear end and said, "Don't worry, son, there's more where that came from."
Let's hear a warm applause for Pinto. We hopes that he'll return with us in the near future.